All right, so welcome back to Students for Political Engagement. Today we are interviewing Rose A. Weinberg, uh, and she is running for Ward 4. So just to start off, would you like to give a short introduction of yourself and why you're running for City Council?
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for inviting me here. And the short answer is a long answer, but it's going to be really short. I've been part of the community here for 36 years, raised my family here, and always involved with something when it was town, now city, wanting things to always be better, safer, safer. And this summer, things over the last few years, I had seen many different things not being cared for in the essence of how Richmond Hill used to care for things and how we could going forward, building into the bigger city that we are. So I decided to put my name forward. My kids are grown up. They went to local public school here, raised dogs here. I've actually been a resident of Richmond Hill for 39 years. So I'm part of the community on all levels.
Right, thank you so much. So now moving into some questions about perhaps what you would want to achieve as a councillor. As a municipality, the financial health of the city is very important of its part of operation. So what would you do as a councillor to ensure that Richmond Hill is on good financial grounds while at the same time providing same or improved services?
That's an incredible question, and it's an area that is not new to me being a resident, but it will be newer to me. And when I get into council, I'll be able to actually look at things on another level. But areas of how to bring revenue to the city, basically what you're asking. One of the things I've noticed, or we've been warned of, is that there is a zero tax increase. And that could become a little bit of an issue when we do need money coming from the residents of the area, right? So it might be looking at a percentage of bringing up taxes for everyone in a small percentage so that we can move forward in an area to bring a little bit more safety into our streets and our city and looking at not just the diversity of the diversity in age groups of Richmond Hill, and how can we bring safety to the city as a whole, but also as each individual community, and especially in Ward 4. So I'm not really clear on answering 100% how I would work on that revenue, but that would be one area. The other thing is events to the city, bringing more events into our Main Street, Yonge Street. And I got a few other ideas as well to bring forward when I am hopefully on council.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Furthermore, on public parks and green spaces, so public parks and green spaces are an incredibly important part of Richmond Hill. How will you work to protect and improve the environment of Richmond Hill?
You mean outside of sleeping in the parks myself and making sure they're safe? I got a couple ideas on that one. Number one, I want to look at what's going on. Obviously, I'm going to be in Ward 4, but we're obviously branching out into all of Richmond Hill, and that is the big concern. Number one is the lighting in the parks. The lighting in the parks and the walkways to the parks or through the neighborhoods need to be looked at and figured out how we can either bring in more light or bring in lighting that's actually more appropriate at the times of whether it's for early morning walkers or late afternoon sports fans. There's a lot of different areas, a lot of different ways we can bring in some ways to bring, enhance the lighting, number one. Looking at the green space, I live right by Bradstock Park, which was just recently done over the last few years for Ward 4, which is a fantastic park. It is used 24, well, it can't be 24 hours a day because it's supposed to be closed in the middle of the night, but it is used from early morning. I'm a 6 o'clock in the morning walker till late at night, and it's not being cared for. So these are the things I want to put forward. Make sure the policies are in place, that we have the proper partnerships with outside governing bodies to come and make sure, or within the community of Richmond Hill, that it's being cared for appropriately, because between the garbage, there's not enough garbage cans. I know that sounds simple, but that doesn't enhance the green space and the beauty of what's going on there. There's a dog park that's north of here that is not cared for in a way that really I would want to bring my dog and let her off leash, right? So, and then of course we have other areas that need to be addressed in the sense of, again, how are they being maintained? I find that the maintenance is not up to spec when I go to other neighboring cities and townships where the parks are supreme. They're just exquisite looking green space, and we need to bring a little bit more of that. So I'm kind of on a bit of a mission, a championship mission, to look into how can we better what we have, because we do have great green space here in Richmond Hill. How do we better it, and then how do we enhance it to grow more?
All right, thank you so much. So, of course, there's lots of other parts about enhancing a city, and one of those is the ability for people to get around without necessarily, in easier ways, right? And so that comes down to transportation. Of course, Richmond Hill is a growing city, and with that comes growing amounts of traffic, and we need to sometimes get people off of the road into other modes of transportation to reduce this traffic. And that is, of course, the advancements we have in our transportation. So what would you do as city councillor to improve the transportation and the public transportation system in the city? And this goes from anything from, of course, the YRT to also bikes and walking.
Okay, I'm going to speak a little bit on the walking and the bikes situation in the area. Like it would be very challenging to all of a sudden find a way to do bike lanes when we're already tight with traffic, but a way to bring clearer signs for the biking, but also my main mission right now is the sidewalks. They're unsafe. There's so many areas that are unsafe within Ward 4 and other surrounding areas of Richmond Hill. And so for transportation, for someone to walk, the problem is that we're a lot of people, it doesn't matter age group, from little ones to seasoned Richmond Hillers, we're walking on the road here, and that's already bringing more pedestrian traffic to the streets. So now you're asking me, how am I going to get the cars off the road when first I got to get the people off the road? I know this is kind of, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question dead on, but this is a big thing in my head. And then from there to move forward, how do we enhance getting people from point A to point B, like to the GO station? The other thing is talking about the GO stations. We have a great GO station in Maple, but the GO station in Richmond Hill could use some enhancements as well. There's a bus that's here on Regent Street that actually was brought to Regent Street by myself and my friend when our kids were starting high school over at Alexander Mackenzie, because there was no transportation for them other than walking or us driving them. So I am a big advocate of looking at everything, but right now my head and my focus for the moment is getting pedestrians off of the streets, the walking, and getting them back on the sidewalks to walk our neighborhood safely. I know that was a bit of a curveball on the question. I do understand the question, but that's something that I wanted to bring forward.
All right, yeah, because of course, if you have more people walking, that means that they might not be, for example, driving short distances.
Exactly.
And again, part of that comes down to maybe things like zoning to make sure that people have more amenities within walkable distance. So
100%.
what would
So I was just going to add to that. That's the other,
yeah, of course. That's what
for example, if I want to walk to go do some grocery shopping, I could, but it's not an easy path. Not the streets aren't easy. The streets are available. The parks are available to walk through. But if I'm going to be carrying back groceries or take one of those buggies back with me, I'm taking it on a rickety sidewalk as opposed to, so now I'm walking on the road. So if we're looking at all that, the other thing is looking at businesses along Main Street. You're probably going to ask me this question, but this is another part of it. Bringing more people, bringing more residents, or offering more to the residents so that they have enhanced shopping within the strip, the main strip and the main corridor of Yonge Street. I kind of answered your question overly. I know you mentioned that, but that's another big one.
All right, thank you so much.
And yes, thank you for the answer. And I think our next question is related to what you just mentioned, which is pedestrians and walking, because another important part of a community is obviously community safety. So how would you as a counselor work on maintaining and improving the safety standards here in Richmond Hill?
Outside of me going out and taking off the sidewalks myself and replacing them, just a little humor. Absolutely, I want to sit down with whoever, with the powers that be, with council and with the powers that be, and look at the community, the partnerships we have with developments, and find out ways to bring part of the developers here to do some additional work within the sidewalks, within the roadways, get things fixed up. Even for example, talking to Rogers Cable. Half the cable boxes are, okay, half is being exaggerated, but there is a tremendous portion of cable boxes that are half off their kilter as we're walking the streets. So I'd like to sit down once in council, if all goes well, to sit down with everybody and sit down and understand the partnerships we have and the partnerships we may have to build, or utilizing the partnerships we have, like within development, how we can enhance everything, like for the pedestrians and for, for the communities, right?
Yes, thank you for that answer. And I think another portion of community safety is obviously the aspect of crime in Richmond Hill. So I was wondering if you had any particular thoughts on that area of community safety and how it can be addressed.
Yes. So as I've been door knocking and meeting a lot of people, I know a lot of people in Richmond Hill, but I'm meeting a lot of new people. And there are people that are telling me one street in particular in Ward 4 was hit 4 times. Cars were stolen off the driveway. On our street, cars were stolen off the driveway. And but here's one. I'm gonna share one quick story, because this story actually takes us to everything that you're asking me. I spoke to a seasoned resident of Richmond Hill, so been here 25, 30 years, corner lot, and has vandalism constantly being vandalized, people jumping over her fence into her main corridor there of her home and vandalizing and breaking things. And she's called the police and she's spoken to the town, and things are not getting done. And I said a simple fix would be if we could have a patrol car that, for 3 weeks sitting there and stopping this and sort of deterring the vandals to come over onto her property. Unfortunately, they'll move somewhere else. And I know that that's not the answer, what we're looking for, but I think that we need to, again, partner up with our police, partner up with the community at large, and talk about how can we help. And I actually think that the street lights are a big problem in the area, that it's too dark and people are able to come and go as they please and do what they want, because vandalization is a lot bigger. The other idea is that each home gets a some form of financing to enhance with some kind of camera security system outside of their house. I mean, that's a big ask for the city to do that, but there might be something, again, that we can partner with some other developer or some other company that might offer things like that. It's a little off the cuff, my ideas, but they're good and they're very simple, but we need to bring safety back to Richmond Hill.
Thank you. Speaking of developers and just development in general, so urban development is an important part of any city, but also especially for a city's council's responsibility. So right now, the lack of housing is an important problem that is facing Richmond Hill as our population grows, alongside with just the general population of the world. On the other hand, the density of housing and adequate services are also a concern of many residents. What is your idea on how city council should approach this problem and balance between the two issues, between these issues of like urban with like dense population density as well as a growing population?
And you know what, that's a great question. They're all great questions. Again, a lot of that is about being on council and finding out a little bit more. I know I can find out in detail everything that's going on, but find out more in detail in hand as a cohesive group. Find out what what was discussed in the past, what maybe didn't work, find out what we can do, sit down with the developers. The developers have great ideas as well, right? About housing and about density. But I think that a little bit of looking at Richmond Hill and looking at other neighboring communities that are growing in huge population, looking at what they're doing as well to bring forward so that Richmond Hill becomes the bigger city that it's destined to be, right? So I think a lot of it for me would be more so in the very, very near future, if all goes well, that would be one of my primary conversations I'd like to have to see what hasn't been done, why hasn't it been done? And I know, again, I can do all this research, but then I'm not out there doing the part of meeting everybody and finding out what their concerns are. And that is one of the huge concerns that I'm hearing between safety and green space and the lighting and traffic. What you're just asking me, Jacqueline, is a huge concern of what people aren't sure what they're doing. For example, there's young adults that were born and raised here that couldn't buy housing here. So that was one area. Then there's people that are coming in from other parts of GTA or from downtown. They can't find housing in Richmond Hill, so they're going further north. But we want to build Richmond Hill, and Richmond Hill isn't building to the best of its ability. So, but a lot of that, what I want to answer, I need to know a little bit more. I'm very, very transparent on who I am, and I know that I would find out more, and I know I'd be able to really talk on that and speak on that subject at a later date.
All right, thank you. But I was just wondering, you talk about what Richmond Hill is destined to be a bigger city. And on that note, do you think that the type of development that needs to be done to, cool down the housing market is more large-scale developments that are concentrated on, Yonge Street, like the current plans seem to be implying? Or would you want to spread that out more so that there are maybe fewer single-family homes, but also fewer larger developments?
Again, great question. I need to find out a little bit more information on how everything, I understand how it's been developed South Yonge Street, like the Hillcrest Mall area, that whole south of Major Mackenzie, what, they put in so many condominiums. I know there's condominiums that's coming up here in Ward 4, and then north. And also sort of sitting as looking at it, that it's a very interesting thing, because there's people that want to come in here and they want to have their big housing development. I mean, I live in a beautiful neighborhood here in Heritage Estates. And then there's people that want to come in and find an affordable townhouse, like smaller and possibly a condo. I think that there has to be the blend. And it appears that the blend is going to be available, but I can't speak on that 100% at this point.
All right, thank you.
And yes, thank you for that answer. And I think as with any councillor, what people like to see in council is progress being made. Mm-hmm. So if you were elected as a councillor, what do you think would be the top thing that you would focus on and trying to get done?
Well, I touched on it before, and I'm going to touch on it again. The one thing is the looking at the safety for the residents within definitely Ward 4, but within all of Richmond Hill, right? And really fine tuning the maintenance that's happening and making sure that it's being maintained to a supreme and prestigious way, so that we can all move forward, walking to school, walking to work, finding our way to, on our residential, using our residential walkways appropriately. That would be like a #1 beginning stage. I know there's so many other things that have to be addressed. But, one of the things is, I know from being part of the community for so many years, we're always talking, we're always wanting, we're always enhancing. But it's interesting walking the streets now and literally asking people, what are you looking for? And everything that you're talking about is being addressed, but there's two things that are the main things that people are sharing. And three things. One is they want a counselor that they can count on, that they could reach out to, and I want to be that person for them. Two is the safety of what's going on in the neighborhood on all levels, like crime, from crime to walking. And three is what's going on in the main part of Old Town, or I call it Old Town. It's not old anymore, but the main part of Richmond Hill from Major Mackenzie to Crosby and beyond, actually past the theater, that whole strip of Yonge Street, and why we need to enhance there so that we can bring our, do more events, more community-based things, and bring build the community of Richmond Hill back, or well, actually it's not even back, build the community forward, that people want to come out and just do a walk, go for a coffee, go for a tea in that area and shop and do that. So I know I'm kind of rambling a little, but I'm not, because this is what I'm hearing, but this is also part of the reason I wanted to run.
All right, thank you. And that concludes our interview. So thank you so much for being here on Students for Political Engagement. And we hope that this election elects.
That sounds great. Well,
Yeah.
if I may, first of all, thank you very much for reaching out and spending the time with me tonight. I'm very appreciative. I hope that the best people come into council over the next and to build Richmond Hill into this. It's such a fabulous city. We're all fabulous people. It's so diverse. So I'm hoping all the right people come in.